EJ, we expect great things out of you. It's been a pleasure to see you working so hard to make Jeff Linder's NorCal everything it is. NorCal Cycling, Go check it out. You want to live the races all week long, watch these videos.
Riders ready? Yes, sir.
And they're off, the largest field of the day.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. EJ, good to have you back.
Dude, so good to be here.
Marked man EJ, after my man's success in last week's cherry pie, I think that you're a marked man. And you got some messages on social media, right?
I did. I got some messages leading into this. People kind of let me know that, hey, we're looking out for you, which was a little bit unsettling, not gonna lie.
And we got a lot to talk about. This is an exciting race. This is the Merced Cat 4-5 field. Let's talk about the teams, because there were three significant teams in this race, starting with Velo Kings. How many Velo Kings riders were there?
I think there were 6 or 7 Velo Kings there. They had big representation, and you'll see they used it pretty well. Gonna give a little spoiler right there.
Yeah, and then Tayroon.
Yeah, I think Tayroon had 3 riders, 3 or 4, so they were also pretty well represented.
And finally, another big local team, Alto Velo, with 3 riders. So a lot of teams, like the announcer said, biggest field of the day. Look at these roads. They're even worse than they look. Let's dive into some race footage. Second lap, and as you can tell, guys, that first lap was really spicy. Second lap, spicy. EJ already up at 1,200 watts, but for good reason. This made a lot of sense, because look who's up the road. We just talked about the teams, right? I think every one of those teams is represented. These are the moments you have to use energy to jump across, because as some of the other fields on the day will tell you, breakaways will get away early and often on this course, and they will stay away. So it's important to be aware of what's going on the road and make sure that if there's like the right selection of riders, that you don't let them get away. If there's the wrong selection of riders, let them open a gap. It's still, almost 30 kilometers to go. Got to choose your battles. And that little move gets brought back. You see a Velo Kings rider on the right there moving up. Sick counterattack. Like this, you don't see this very often in the Cat 4-5 field. It kind of draws you out on the outside here. It looks like you're doing some power, but then all of a sudden, what's going on here, guys? What do I say on the channel all the time? Don't chase your teammates. What's going on here? EJ, another freebie, dude. Awesome.
I know. I will happily take this little Velo on Velo action. Shout out to you guys. But, again, no spoilers, but kind of spoilers. They definitely figured it out later in the race.
I think this is the only mistake they make. Let's find out all the things they did right here in the next couple of clips. Still 27 kilometers left to go in this race. Bam! On the right. Big counterattack. This is an unattached rider. He's not part of one of those 3 teams we talked about. Tayroon chases on the left in the light blue. And also the light blue, this Velo Kings rider. I love what you did there, EJ. I'll say that you waited, unattached rider and Tayroon go up the road, and you didn't panic. You chilled, you waited until Velo Kings win. I think this is an important lesson, because I do this all the time when I'm racing solo at Alviso, for example.
Yeah.
You really have to choose wisely. This comes back to, I think, what we talked about in the last clip, which is, if it's not the right combination of riders, it's very unlikely it's going to go the distance. It really has to be the right combination. So when I saw only one of those 3 major teams represented up the road, it's okay. You can't chase every single attack down. It's a long race, but you have to choose those wisely. So you waited for Velo Kings to do the same thing. Once they followed suit, I thought that was a good time. You followed his attack. You guys jumped across. And turns out, as you can see, kind of disorganized. I'm wondering, though, if they started to elbow you through here, would you have rolled a turn?
I think I would have, mainly because both teams were represented. I feel like it was kind of a strong enough pack that we could have that it could have been something that stuck. But am I wrong for doing that? What's your take?
No, I think that's right. I think that's the right move. Worst case scenario is you're putting a lot of pressure on Alto Velo, which is the other team. They're in orange, who would have missed out. And also, the biggest part of that is, is being on the front. This is a pretty technical crit. Like we said, the roads are really bad. That back section especially bad.
It's gnarly.
There's really only one race line through there. And if you're in a small group, you can take that race line at speed. When you're back in the peloton, as you know, EJ, being in this race, like, it's really difficult to navigate when you're around other people because people aren't quite as confident. And as I've been talking, what's going on here? Another Velo Kings attack. Like, they were on it, man, early and often. I like this. They're very aggressive. They're using their numbers to their advantage. This is the way that team racing is supposed to look like. And yeah, despite their one little hiccup at the beginning where they were chasing each other, look, I mean, EJ, you're drawn out here. And this is what I was talking about before. It's like, yeah, Velo Kings is threatening because they're racing well. They seem like strong riders. They're the biggest team in this race. But with only one rider and 26 kilometers left to go, this is a moment where if I were in your position here, I would say, okay, let that one rider go. Don't slow down to 15 miles an hour back in the pack, because then maybe he'll be gone forever. But, like, let the one rider go, because you can't chase everything all the time throughout this entire race. You'll die, you know?
Because they're just going to put me in a Velo Kings blender. And that's kind of what it felt like at this moment. You know, honestly, to jump back a second, I think the only reason I waited to cover that Terun attack for the Velo Kings guys because I was too tired to do it on my own. It wasn't me being smart. It was just me being tired. You know, like, I can't do this all race. I was already exhausted.
If you're saying you're tired, yeah, dude, we're like 5 laps into this race. We're like not even 10% through this race. And, well, maybe we're 10% through this race. But we're very early on. And if you're already feeling tired and feeling, like, beat down from all these counterattacks, at a certain point, you got to, like, fall back and choose those battles. And this is a part where you can't just depend. We all know you're fit, right? Like, it's no surprise anymore. You're going really good. You have a lot of power. Your secret weapon has been revealed. You can sprint really well too. But as you cat up into these higher categories, you can't just lean on your fitness full time. You're going to have to figure out the nuance of bike racing. And part of that is understanding the dynamic of the group. And yeah, like, I know that you're so excited. You're like, oh, I just want things to stay together because I'm a sprinter and I just want to see 200 meters to go. But yeah, that might work in the novice field. But now that you're catting up, bam, counterattack by Velo Kings. They're going to keep doing this. And look at, dude, you just fell for this a second ago. You're doing this again. And this is exactly what Velo Kings wants. If you think about what they're doing, there's 7 of them, right?
Yeah.
One of them is off the front right now looking back, and he's going like, oh, sweet. EJ's chasing again.
Yeah.
You're a marked rider. We already talked about that. The other 6, think about the other 6, his teammates. They're all back in the pack chilling, like not spending any energy. This is exactly the situation that Velo Kings wants. They're executing this beautifully. Like, we're going to see more of this from them. Let's skip forward a little bit. And yeah, like you saw, EJ eventually closed that down to the Velo Kings rider, who's now buttoning up his shoes, just like waiting for the counterattack from his teammate. And EJ chasing some more. You got to let Alto Velo, like, you got to fall back. But you know what? One thing I noticed about this one is, like, it wasn't quite as enthusiastic. What's going on, buddy? You feeling tired?
Dude, I felt like I was in a blender at this point. Just the hashtag Velo Kings blender, man. Like, they did me dirty, you know? And right, like we said, they marked me going in, and they just raced a really, really good race up to this point. And I was hurting, but then now I'm like in no man's land, you know? It's like,
how much time have you spent on the front, or like in the wind? I think is a better way of saying it. Like in the wind, either in no man's land, chasing stuff down. This is the biggest
92.3% of this race, I would say. I've been in.
This is the biggest field of the day, like the announcer said, but you wouldn't know it because without a rear cam, like all we see is like 2 riders in front of you at all times. When you're stuck in this situation, like I said earlier, it's tricky. Like, you don't want to be found. You don't want to be in the situation where it's attack, counterattack, rinse, and repeat. So you have to drop back, pick your battles, like we talked about. We already talked about that strategy. But also, like, at a certain point, you just have to go back into the field, because one thing, even if you're following attacks, like right there, you're up at 750 watts. It doesn't seem like much, but over and over, when you're back in the pack, you don't feel those accelerations as much, even if they're happening at the front. You're right. Somebody launches off the front at 1,200 watts. If you're mid-pack, like, the elastic stretches, right? And like, you don't even really feel that acceleration as if as if it never even happened. If you're on the front, you feel the full brunt of that acceleration every single time. And EJ, you were on the front like this entire race. As we've been talking, you're still on the front. So I think this is part of the problem, is like you're so fit, you're so enthusiastic, that you forgot that you know your book of matches isn't endless. Like eventually you're going to run out of energy.
I got to take a chill pill before the race. I think that's what I need.
Yeah, so EJ, it kind of chilled out for a few laps, but then Velo Kings is like right back on it. They were so good in this race. I mean, we've already been singing their praises, but off they go again. And at this point, I was watching this, and I was like, okay, at least you're going to be in Alto Velo's draft, right? At least you're going to put some of the onus of the chasing on another one of the big teams, which is this orange rider in front of you. But, dude, you've done so much work up until this point, and I see this gap opening up. Yeah, and it just seems like you're already starting to tire out a little bit, which is totally understandable. Yeah. Like, you've been so active this race, and now this is exactly the situation that the Velo Kings wants, is like this chaos behind. Looks like Alto Velo's taking a drink, like he's over it, and Velo Kings is off the front now. But this is a situation where it's like, okay, you gotta let him go. You know, you gotta sit back, you gotta let him go, and you gotta let Tyrone and Alto Velo sort this out. The other two big teams be like, okay, we're not happy with one rider up the road. You could even organize with them. Dude, it's fine. I do this all the time. Talk with these other teams. Like right up alongside this Alto Velo rider and be like, okay, so there's 3 of you guys, and let's organize. Let's rotate. Like, it's fine to make packs mid-race, right? Like that's basically what a breakaway is anyway, right? That's like the dynamic of a bike race. But if you leaned over and told them, like, hey, let's chill, let's just rotate like 4 of us, you guys would have saved so much energy, and then Velo Kings wouldn't be just doing this, like, one after another counterattack on you. And oh my God, EJ, let this one go, man. I was about ready to press pause on the recording, and then another one of these goes.
Oh my gosh, dude.
You gotta let this guy go, because he's unattached. Like force one of the teams to do this. But yeah, I feel like I want to go a little easier on you, because I feel like it's the same thing over and over. But it's a testament to your strength.
Well, yeah, and like I also want people to learn from this. I think it's like we've said again and again, it's hard when you're in the race. Like me in the race, I'm kind of like, I'm starting to kind of piece together like what's happening. Like I'm starting to get to the point where I'm not as nervous as I was, so I can kind of understand who's up the road and actually think and not just black out the whole race. But it's important for people to like learn from my mistakes. So feel free to rip into me as I chase another one down. But I think this one, there was a Tyrone and a Velo Kings up the road. Is this one to chase down right here?
Yeah, he went. You should have been behind him.
Okay.
And then you should have followed. That would have been ideal. But yeah, like, it seems like you're just at the front chasing now, which sucks. Like, I don't have to tell you, this sucks. You've been going so hard. We're gonna do a power reveal at the end of this video too, to talk about exactly how much power EJ made in this race. Let's fast forward a bit. We still have 15 kilometers of racing left. Let's see what happens. And I'm gonna show you an example. We stopped here for just momentarily because this is what I was talking about. We have Velo Kings again. They were on it. Tyrone rider, like, he telegraphs his attack. He clicked a couple of gears. He went down into the drops, and that's what we just talked about. It was even the same team.
Yeah.
Like, you had a chance to be in his draft, but I think at this point you've done so much work, it was hard for you to execute that. I think you recognize it, obviously. You saw it. You're chasing now. But instead of following, you're in no man's land chasing. And yeah, this is a threatening one. Like, I would want to chase this one back too, but I would want to follow it instead of chasing it. There's a big difference. One is in somebody's draft doing much less work. One is like this, and I think you're kind of losing that snap a little bit. Is that what it felt like at this point?
I definitely felt like I was losing the snap, but I also just was kind of in my head at this point about what to chase and what not to chase, because I realized that at this point, I remember realizing, holy crap, okay, chasing everything is not going to work. I feel like I'm in a freaking washing machine. So now I'm just like all bamboozled about what's going on, if I'm being honest. I was like, what to chase, what not to chase. And that's why it's so cool to break it down after, to really learn from my mistakes, Yeah,
no, well said. And it's hard. Like, I don't want to sound like I was like too critical in this video.
No, you're fine.
I'm being pretty critical, but it's hard. I'll give you credit, because like, it took me a really long time. That's such a difficult discipline to learn, which is knowing like what to follow, what to chase, like when to let something go. This is basically Alviso for me, because I'm racing solo unattached generally at Alviso, like without teammates.
Yeah.
And there are teams that I deal with. For fans of the channel, you guys know I post a lot of Alviso content, and it's a lot like this. So this is really my bread and butter, is understanding that dynamic of like when you have to chase. And dang, you just did like 1,300 watts. What was going on there?
I kind of remember this. So there's that Tyrone and Velo Kings rider still up the road, and the peloton was pretty much behind me. And at this point, I was like, okay, I burned so many matches. You know, why not try it one last time? Hindsight's 2020. Probably wasn't smart. But I was like, okay, I'm going to spike up the power and try to get away from everyone, not bring everyone across.
Oh, I see.
And maybe we can rotate this as a break.
So I like the sentiment of that. I like the idea behind it. You need to do this, the signature slingshot attack, the NorCal signature slingshot attack. So start like 8th wheel and then come past the front riders with a lot of speed, because like you have this ability to snap 1,300 watts relatively easily, like you just did, but when you're on the front, it just doesn't have the same impact because it takes a while to get up to speed. So I like the idea, but and you do eventually get across to them, but at what cost, right? I mean, you've been chasing for several laps, and it's been on the front, and you have the whole peloton. If you had a rear camera, we would know this, but you have the whole peloton in your draft right now. Velo Kings absolutely licking their chops, waiting for the next counterattack. Let's find out. And there is a counterattack, but I lied. It's not Velo Kings. For once, it's not Velo Kings. It's an unattached rider. And this is great. Follow this Tyrone rider. But this is another reason why I said, tip number 1 is don't get yourself in the washing machine of counterattack. And the tip number 2 is like get further back in the pack. We talked about how the pack dynamic works, where when there's a big acceleration on the front, you almost don't feel it when you're mid pack because it just kind of stretches the peloton out. And consistency is efficiency. So you had to snap a lot of power, and you're still not even in his draft. But fortunately for you, you were kind of pain dangling there for a little bit. And Velo Kings kind of swooped in here for you and filled that gap in, because remember, for once in this race, it's not Velo Kings off the front. It's actually that unattached rider who has he been brought back? I think he's been brought back already.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, he's been brought back, and I think Velo Kings felt bad for putting my head in the washing machine all day, so he came to my rescue. Thanks, man. Shout out you, Mitchell.
Bam, another counterattack. Do we have to say anything else, EJ? You followed this one. Surprise, surprise. You chased back another attack.
Dude, it's really hard to sit in this chair and watch this. It's giving me PTSD. My legs are hurting.
Dude, I'm just
right
impressed.
now,
I'm impressed you're still in this race. Like, you've done so much work up until this point. It's crazy that you're still in this. You have been at the front. I haven't seen the rest of the field. Like, you've just been at the front or within the top 3 riders this entire race. It's insane. Another 1,000 watts for good measure. You do chase them back once again. Proud of you for doing that. But like, this has got to catch up with you eventually, right?
Well, quickly, I want to touch on this. I saw a comment on the last video. I want to ask you, have I done well enough to deserve a rear GoPro? I think the people want to see, what's going on behind me as well. Do I officially get to upgrade to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for races like this. I mean, like we said, you spent most of your race on the front, so like we don't even see most of the field, and I think there'd be a value add. So let's get a rear GoPro on the next race for sure.
I think you guys can guess why we jump cut here and what happened.
1,500 watts to chase back a Velo Kings rider.
Oh my gosh, man! I don't even know what to say. Like, looking back at it, it's like, wow. How could you not have figured this out at this point?
In for a penny, in for a pound, dude. At this point, you just got to chase everything back. You got to chase that moto back. He's getting away. EJ, get him.
Oh my God, dude.
All right, we're coming into 2 laps to go. EJ chasing back yet another person. I think it's the point where you're just like, I'll be damned if I'm going to let a breakaway get away at this point. I've been chasing stuff back for the last 40 minutes. I'm not going to let somebody in the last 3 minutes get away. I feel like you're just so committed at this point.
I will say I looked down at the time on this race way more than I did at Cherry Pie. This race felt like it was 6 hours long. And now, looking back at it, I can see why.
Yeah. So let's just take it from here. I don't know. I can't really remember what happens. I think you probably do a lot of chasing in these last couple laps.
Oh, I would be so surprised if I did that, Jeff. Thanks.
You got to fall back now.
Yeah.
And you have to just let the race breathe a little bit, and then like let your heart rate come back down and save your legs for the sprint. But if there's any time to have energy, like now is the time, because we talked about early on in the race and being selective on when breakaways get away. I think it's much less likely. I told you to let some of those solo Velo Kings riders go.
Yeah.
It's so much less likely for a solo rider to get away with 20 laps to go. If it's 2 laps to go, it's more threatening. So you have to be you have to weigh that there's a consideration there when you're thinking about what to chase and what not to chase. But now's the moment when you should have been sitting in, and you shouldn't be on your very last effort at this point in the race, because this is when you really need the energy, right? Because look, people are
boom.
Yeah, welcome to higher categories, EJ, right? This is category 4 now, and people are Velo Kings have shown us that there's strategy now. There's also guys who are just going to be strong like you now. 1,300 watts. EJ chasing back another one, coming through Bell Lap. I remember watching this from the sideline dude.
Uh-oh.
On the front, smashing through Bell Lap to chase back an unattached rider. This has got to be Velo Kings chasing this. There's 7 of them, don't forget. This has got to be Alto Velo. And I'll tell you what, if I was in this race and you were my teammate, you would be doing exactly what I would want you to do as a loyal domestique, a lead-out guy. Hey, EJ, keep it stitched up for me. Make sure that I'm protected until 200 meters to go. Problem is, EJ, how many teammates did you have in this race?
It's just me, myself, and I, so 3 of us.
So you're domestiquing yourself. You're basically doing lead-out duties for Alto Velo at this point, is basically what it boils down to. There's 3 of them behind you. There's 7 Velo Kings right. I don't know how many are left. I don't know how many have been dropped. But you are single-handedly dealing with this last lap flyer when there are 3 big teams behind you who are just this is the absolute best. We love EJ. Thank you for doing this. And, this is scary. Lapped riders. We talked about that section of the road. There's basically a single race line, and they had it all occupied. What are your thoughts coming into the final 200 meters here?
Well, I knew right here that the Alto Velo guy was just sitting in my draft for this whole last lap, and I was like, uh-oh. And Jeff and I talked before the race that I should start my sprint at that corner, and I was just all over the place. It ended up being way too early. But I was still, I'm going to go for it. I have it, and then boom. This guy pops around me, but dude, somehow I took second in that race.
I cannot believe you still took second in that race. I can't believe you still popped off whatever that was, 1,350 watts, because that was a long sprint. That was a lot of power. And props to the Alto Velo rider. I don't know his name, but for taking the W, because he timed it absolutely perfectly. He waited. I know you like long sprints, EJ, but after 10,000 bridge efforts throughout this entire race, I don't think that was the right move, is to go early. But yeah, I mean, you kind of dug your grave in the first 50 minutes of this 52-minute race. So, dude, I cannot believe the power he made throughout this race. Okay, so EJ, let's start with you. What was your, let's say, average power in this race?
My average power was 275.
Okay, and then normalized power?
It was 318.
318, and that got you what average speed?
That got me 24.6 miles an hour.
Okay, now check this out. This is going to blow your mind. The winner of the P12 race, not going to spoil it, he averaged 27 miles an hour. In fact, it was 27.1 miles an hour. He had an average power of only 255 watts, normalized power of 265 watts. So, we talk a lot about consistency is efficiency. We talked a lot about saving those efforts, EJ, for those moments when it matters most, sitting in as much as possible, conserving your speed, all of those things. And this is just a good representation. Hey, it doesn't take a ton of power to win the P12 race. It takes really amazing cornering, really amazing race sense, and we're going to get you there because you have the power, you have the talent, you have the ability. It's just that race awareness, and it's going to take a little bit of time to build, but we're on the right track. Road to Cat 1, here we come, baby. Let's do this.
Dude, let's do it, man. All in all, though, this race was so much fun. I just absolutely love racing. I'm bitten by the bug. I'm addicted. I can't thank you guys enough for the support. The second channel also hit 10K subs. Just want to shout that out real quick. So thank you guys. That is amazing. If you haven't checked that out, we do race day vlogs, kind of behind the scenes stuff on there. So go check it out.
And should we hit him with it, DJ? You're a category 3 now.
I am officially a Cat 3 now, which is just, dude, absolutely wild. I can't believe I'm a Cat 3. Wow, that's so cool.
Stoked for you, bro. You're gonna be racing with me in no time in the P12 field. I know it. I see it coming. This video is gonna be an hour and a half. So thanks for hanging in there, guys. EJ, great having you on. Amazing result. Great race.
Thank you.
We'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.